Hey there, Cheesemeisters. Welcome back to the Peach Pod. That would have been Let's Go With the Beginning by Seal. This is the song that is playing when Emily slips drugs into Brandon's drink at the, rave that they were at. The very realistic, I'm certain, rave.
The naughty pit.
Yes. I'm Jeff, and I would like to exchange an egg. And joining me on the other end of the internet, my co-host.
I'm Leslie, and I like the idea of your books in my locker.
Yeah, boy, was that
What the fuck was that?
Did that make it all the way to double entendre, or was it still single entendre? Was it just entendre?
No, it was double entendre because he says it right back to her.
No, but I'm saying that there was no subtext. I'm saying it was text.
Oh, yeah.
She was saying, "Put your penis in my vagina right now, Brandon Walsh."
In the hallway.
And he was like, "I like the sound of that."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moving in together.
That's right. So, folks, we are discussing Season 2, Episode 15, U4EA, original air date, November 14th, 1991. This is Sweeps Don't Do Drugs.
This is War on Drugs. Peak.
Oh my God, this fucking episode. So, I don't really have anything to say about Seal, but I did have something that, as I was thinking about this episode, that I realized I wanted to talk to you about. Because it's something, and based on our text back and forth, I'm correct, that you've never heard of before.
No.
So, it's this thing called grunge speak. And you've never heard of it, right?
No, I missed the grunge scene.
Yeah, so here's what this is, and it is kind of amazing. In 1992, the New York Times wanted to write an article about this subculture called grunge. That was this mysterious thing from the Pacific Northwest, and it came in flannel, and it was a whole situation. So they were like calling around doing reporter shit, and they had the great misfortune of speaking to a woman named Megan Jasper, who was working for Caroline Records, which is a record company in Seattle. And she previously worked for Sub Pop, which was the label that like Nirvana came out of and all that kind of stuff. So she got a couple of phone calls about stories like this, and eventually she took the one from the New York Times. And she made up a bunch of shit.
Oh no! What?
Yes, it's wonderful. She gave them a whole list of grunge slang that wasn't real. And they printed it like it was real shit.
Oh my God.
And none of these are things that, actually a couple of them got used in other contexts later, but these are, like, none of these were things, okay? To bloated or big bag of bloatation was drunk.
Oh no.
Bound and hagged was staying home on Friday or Saturday night.
That's great.
Cobnobbler was a loser.
Yes.
Yeah, I like Cobnobbler. It's kind of fun. Dish is a desirable guy. Fuzz were those heavy wool sweaters that everyone wore in the early 90s. Harsh Realm is a bummer. And that actually became the name of a movie later that I think was probably a reference to this list by naming it that. Kickers are heavy boots. Lame Stain is an uncool person.
Oh no.
Plats are platform shoes. Rock On is a happy goodbye. Score means great. Swinging on the flippity flop means hanging out, and that's probably my favorite one.
Yes. Oh my God, Michael Scott says that.
Oh, does he? See, that's where that comes from. Yeah, it comes from this. Swinging on the flippity flop is so stupid. I really wish that one had landed. Tom Tom Club are uncool outsiders, and Wax Slacks are old ripped jeans.
Oh my word. I love all of these except for Lame Stain.
And here's the thing about that. That word is the word I would use to describe this episode.
Yes.
This episode is a lame stain.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah. But if you think about it, David got bloated. Instead of being bound and zagged, he was a total cobnobbler. The guy wearing 4 was a dish. I didn't see anyone wearing fuzz, but Brandon doing these drugs was a harsh realm. And Emily wore those heavy boots, but she turned out to be a lame stain. I didn't see anybody wearing plaits, and they weren't allowed to have a rock on, but the music was score, and everyone was just swinging on the flippity flop in that rave with a whole bunch of tom-tom clubs wearing their wax slacks.
Oh, my word. Well,
I did not pre-write that.
What?
No!
Oh, I hate you. You suck.
I just top of the headed that bullshit. But isn't that stupid?
That's so stupid and great, and you suck. Ugh. I was like, oh, he's written a thing. I'm going to let it out there. I forget what I was going to say now. Wow, that was...
Sorry. I knew I'd get about halfway through using these words, and then I just realized I could probably finish it out.
Yeah, I mean, why not? That's awesome.
This is what it means to be Gen X, when you can just incorporate swinging on the flippity flop into your lexicon on a moment's notice. I'm
just too uncomfortable for slang anymore. In my previous work with students, I really did love how much they would say slay, but I knew once I said it, I would kill it, and I couldn't do it. I'll say old-fashioned things, or things from the Midwest, like, oh, that really gets my goat, or, oh, heck, foot, while also swearing. But occasionally, it's funnier to not swear.
Occasionally, yeah. It's time and location specific. What is the funnier word? For sure. And
I quote Vines,
What's that?
I said, or I quote Vines. Like that's my age.
Got it. I do a lot of. I will use Liam's slang back at him because I know that it kills it.
That's what you're supposed to do as a parent.
I know, and it's really fun to look at him with deep earnestness and say that something is bussin'.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I had a debate with a 9-year-old once.
Ooh.
And I know right there is where I went wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, you started out in the losing position there.
But I couldn't let it go because he was showing a section in a book to his friends going, that's sus, right? That's so sus. That's so sus. And I read it and I went, considering sus is a shortening of suspicious, how is this in turn suspicious? And again, he was sticking with it. And this is where I get upset with people of all ages. I'm like, this is why we're becoming dumber.
Yeah, because we're arguing with 9-year-olds about slang.
Listen, I was getting paid. I didn't care. I knew it was a losing battle, but I needed to make sure he knew he was using this word improperly. Much like the time I went into a store called Kentucky Corner and pointed out that they spelled corner wrong.
Oh, I'm glad that it wasn't in a round room. You would have really teed off on them.
I guess I'm just that person.
I want to speak to someone in charge. There should be corners here, and not for nothing it's in Indiana.
Listen, that was the other problem.
I like it.
Get your Kentucky shit out of Indiana.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. That is like thesis of this program. That's thesis of my life. Let's be honest. All right. So what drugs. Is Euphoria about? Yeah, this thing's about drugs. So, all right. So what happens in this episode is that, for real, everybody was looking to be bound and hagged because no one had weekend plans. It
Nope.
was, they were just going to putz around. Not even Dylan was planning to be in Baja, which is always what happens when there's a group outing up to this point. It's been like, oh, I'd love to come to that, but I'm going to be in Baja.
Which I don't get, really. What is he visiting his mom?
No, he likes to surf. He goes down to Baja to surf.
Oh, all
Yep.
right. Loner.
Yep. Yeah. Mysterious loner with a surfboard. I don't know. He's
Clearly.
Dylan. Have you met? He's mad, bad, and dangerous to know.
Oh, that's right.
But he is like legit the one person in this episode who kind of has his head screwed on right. So that's interesting. But
Yeah. Who
so
knew?
yeah. So there's nothing going on except for Emily got Emily's sourcing is wonderful. She gets the address from a guy handing these things out on Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah. Red flag number one.
That's, that is such a recommendation. I mean, this place has got to kick ass. I got it from a guy on Hollywood Boulevard. It could have literally been anything. But, she lays it on and gives everybody you guys can come if you think you're cool enough.
Oh my God. The peer pressure was so dumb.
It was real dumb. And everyone's just like falling for it. This sounds great. Whoa, that's a fun. Oh, we're definitely in. And except for Brenda eventually starts to be like, hey, this place might be cool, but I kind of also think Emily sucks.
And I hate that they framed it as that. It's totally. I mean, it's clear that Brenda has not been a fan of Emily,
Mm-hmm.
but the stuff she was bringing up about clearly being uncomfortable with this club, I really would have liked for her brother or her boyfriend to listen to her more. The two people that I feel like she's supposed to be able to rely on the most.
Mm-hmm.
And then both of them, I mean, it wasn't until right before Dylan's like, oh yeah, there might be drugs in here. Really?
Yeah, there is. I never considered like the people should have listened to Brenda part of this.
Oh, it bugged me so much.
Yeah, that's interesting because you're right. Like they should have. Like her spidey sense was tingling, and she couldn't get anybody to pay attention. So she just sort of went along with it, and nobody else was picking up a vibe, But I also wonder if Brenda would have picked up a vibe if Dylan hadn't said, now inside these doors, people do drugs.
Right
before they walked in.
I think she would have because she was already feeling a way about it.
Yeah.
She wasn't feeling good about lying to her parents, which is understandable.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Like, I feel like up until and then what happens in this episode, I guess. Well, no, we can let's do this. Up until Dylan takes out the drugs sign and waves it around for everyone to look at. This is kind of shaping up to be a fun episode.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we're all going to go to this thing. It's a bit of an adventure. There's this weird thing about it where you have to go exchange an egg. It sets up this whole funny B plot with Andrea and Steve. And the gang is just going to a party.
Yeah.
And that's kind of fun. I remember nights like this where you would get together with people. I never exchanged an egg or anything silly like that. But
no.
Going to a big party with lots of music and stuff, that's fun. And, everybody is looking forward to that. And, everybody got invited. Even Andrea got invited this time. And that's cool.
Begrudgingly, it seemed.
No, I think they were good to invite Andrea.
No, they were, but
right
Emily made some weird faces every time Brandon was bringing up. Like,
yeah.
That's all
That's
I can
true.
describe. She made some weird faces.
And she also did like, no, some people do things just for fun. Like she gave real shitty attitude to Andrea. Yeah. And
I hate when people do that.
it was really gross. It was like the way she peer pressured everybody was different for each person.
Mm-hmm.
Like she gave Kelly and Brenda and Donna the like, are you cool enough? And she gave, Brandon do this with me. It's lots of fun. Take a chance. This will bring us close together, whatever. That was her move on her.
Okay.
And then with Andrea, she was like, some people like to have fun, lame stain.
I was describing this episode to Walter last night.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a bunch of little shit that, I hope to get to discuss in this, even though it's stupid. But again, one of them being, she wanted to do drugs with Brandon because it's supposed to bring couples closer together. Are you 40? Have you been together for 20 years? Like, I don't. And that's exactly what I said to Walter. I was like, oh my God, like, we've been together 5 years and we think about doing crazy shit, but at the same time, you can't do shit like that together. One person has to be the mother.
It never occurred to me what a middle-aged relationship move that was Emily was pulling. This will bring us closer together.
It's so middle-aged.
It'll spice up our relationship.
You're in high school.
Yeah.
Everything is spicy to you. Calm down.
Walking down the hall spices up your relationship.
Putting books in your locker.
That's right.
Is spicy.
Yeah. By the way,
did
you clock it? Because I clocked it. 39:25:7. If you ever need to,
I didn't clock it. But what is that? Does that mean anything to you?
No, it just means if you want to break into Emily's locker and steal all of Brandon's books, you can do it.
More like call the drug dogs on her.
Yeah, well, I hear one.
Yeah. Those are my neighbor's dogs. Going back to
good timing on your dog background actor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll hand them treats later.
Yeah.
No, the walking down the hallway thing, that's definitely something my high school crush would walk down the hallway with his girlfriend and kiss, and I thought that was the most coordinated thing in the world.
Because they managed to do it like falling over or whatever.
I know. Every day I would talk to my mom about it, and she would just laugh at me. Like, that's so funny that's what you notice.
Yeah, that's what you're like, no, that's just, I mean, I bet he's probably a good dancer because like he can do two things at once physically. That's pretty impressive.
Well, he was off in the lead at my high school. So yeah, I mean, he was my dreamboat.
That dude could walk and smooch.
Two things we all want.
That's right. Walking and smooching. Good things. So they get inside the club, and because they successfully exchanged their egg, and everyone is having maybe. I mean, this club, to be honest, it seemed kind of fun.
It did.
It's far too much for me. Like the noise level now, like discussed. Romeo plus Juliet, too loud. Cracker Barrel, eatery, the mercantile store,
handle a mall.
too loud. Right, malls can be a lot. I don't like any of those stores where like TJ Maxx or
no.
Because it's too much chaos. Like even the piles of clothes there are attacking me, and I don't like it. And so this kind of thing now super unpleasant.
Yes.
Younger me would have a lot of fun at a place like this.
Absolutely.
Not because of all of the drugs, but because there's music and dancing and people having a good time and all of that. I enjoyed that. This place looked fun. And I think they were all pretty much having a good time. Except, and I don't know if you picked up on this, but there were drugs there.
What?
There were, like in this place?
That establishment?
I mean, I saw these on the news that they have these clubs downtown.
Oh my God. Kelly's mom sounded like my mom.
I mean, she sounded reasonable because, but also here's what I loved about that scene was Kelly's reaction when Jackie was like, I saw a story about those on the news the other day. And her tone was clearly one of, you aren't going to believe what's going on at this nursing home. This place is crooked and old people are dying. Like it was that kind of story that Jackie had just seen. And,
Yes.
and Kelly's reaction is like, oh, yeah, uh-huh. Like,
Oh, well, I'll let you know.
oh, you saw it on the news. Oh, interesting. Oh, well, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Like she no-sold so hard, it was really, really funny. And Jackie is correctly thinking, it doesn't sound great that these things are rated every weekend.
No.
But so they go in and Dylan warns Brenda that there are drugs here. And it couldn't be more of a, well, now I know someone's doing drugs. The rest of this episode, someone's doing drugs and we're going to have to watch it because otherwise he wouldn't have brought it up.
One of them will do drugs.
Yes, yeah, somebody's doing some drugs here and it's clearly bad. Like that's clearly bad. And and this is where I think Dylan is like the most only reasonable person in this episode because he's like, yeah, that this is going to be happening in here, Brent. I want you to know that because I clearly have a history. And I'm fine. I'm not interested in doing any drugs tonight. You don't have to worry about me, but I wanted to give you the heads up. Which
Valid.
is a reasonable boyfriend thing to do.
Yes.
As a piece of dialogue at the end of Act 2 of a TV show, it is fucking silly. Because it really it's the biggest flashing neon sign. This episode, kids, is about drugs. And they are bad. And this whole episode was, drugs are bad, okay? It was just Mr. Mackey from South Park, the whole episode.
Mm-hmm. But again, they don't, and I'm going to sound like a snob, but they just don't do it right. Like, I mean, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but the fact that Brandon is off of it so quickly, I feel like, granted, I don't know how long. I would assume what he takes is like X or Molly.
It's supposed to be that, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how long that lasts in your system, and I don't think the hangover, or I don't think it's supposed to be like a hangover. I know there's a come down, which is not great. Again, not from personal experience. I have too much depression already to try these things.
Your body doesn't react well to chemicals like Brandon?
It reacts just fine to certain chemicals. I've just had enough chemicals.
Right.
I've had enough of the softer stuff before I can try the harder stuff safely.
Yeah, that's fair. And that's okay. I want to talk about softer and harder stuff in a little bit.
Yes.
That came out dirtier than I meant it to. But what happens is that Emily spikes Brandon's drink after he explicitly tells her multiple times that he does not, in fact, want to do U4EA. And tells him about it after it's already in his system and what's he going to do about it. And he just sort of has to ride it out. Yeah. And while that's happening, he's having a really good time for most of it until he's not. But then it's like time to go because curfew. And they're there this entire time, which is probably only a couple hours, just based on like they had to exchange the egg before midnight and curfew was 1:30, so they weren't there forever.
No.
But in that amount of time, no one had seen anyone doing any drugs until it was time to leave. And then Kelly steps on a heroin needle and there's people doing crack and David is drunk. And I mean, and then there's the U4EA dealer in the corner with the gigantic sign around him that says, I sell drugs.
Yep.
And this is like a den of iniquity. Suddenly, it's like this is a heroin den is what's happened now in the last 35 and a half seconds. And this place where everybody was having a pretty good time, you know, no one was like having a great time because they were a little bit annoyed with David because he took drugs too, alcohol drugs, and those were bad. And they were like, even like Donna was having fun with him for a while, but then like she even got a little bit over David. And Kelly Kelly was kind of over everything because she realized she was there with 3 other couples and she didn't know that was happening before that night.
Silly.
I know. And then the place is the grossest place ever, and we all have to leave right now. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! And then Brandon and Emily are ridiculously high, to the point where everything they say is dumb, like
Super dumb.
like real dumb. And they say it in a real weird way.
We're
Like,
almost doing it on his car.
well, sure. I mean, that's reasonable. This episode, there was a lot of nipples in this episode, man nipples, like the mesh shirts.
There could have been more.
There could have been. That's true. That's true. The
Dylan gets one of those shirts.
Or like the U4EA guy could have just had like holes cut out over the nipples. So that then like the 4 would kind of look like a nose and it would have 2 eyes.
Yes.
I think that's a good shirt. We should have merchandise idea.
I love it.
Put it in the merch shop. Nippleless U4EA shirts for everybody. Yeah. For God, free the nipple all over this episode. And then, everybody leaves. The place gets busted. Steve and Andrea finally show up. Brandon's car's destroyed. And he kind of halfway breaks up with Emily. And that's what happens in this episode.
I cannot. Okay. The audacity he had with his parents. Like, you could tell he was bothered by stuff happening, but then when his parents are going off, rightfully so, and he's like, it's fine, guys. Oh, don't worry, Dad. I'll pay it off like I always do when I screw up. It's like, you're damn right.
Yeah.
Like, none of this should have happened.
Yeah. But he did get drugged. Like,
yes.
It's not his fault that he got drugged. All of this is Emily's fault. Like, everything that happened was Emily's fault. But there is it's a weird thing that they're doing with Brandon, where everything he does wrong isn't his fault, kind of. Mm-hmm. Like, he crashed Mondale, and that was, it's real shitty. I don't like it. And there's this abdication of responsibility for him.
He's a promising young man, Jeff.
He is promising, and he's not as young as, but yeah, I take your point. I take your point.
Thank you.
Yeah. I don't love that.
No, nor do I.
But but like, the truth of the matter is, like, he said multiple times no, that he did not want this, and it still happened. Very clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that should have been enough for Emily, and she should not have done what she did. That is bad. Don't do that to people. I think we should say that the first thing this episode is about is don't slip drugs to other people. Don't
Seriously, though.
Taking a stand.
And like, I thought it was bold / stupid that she did it at the bar, and then I realized, people have been doing that for decades.
Right. Yeah. Literally everyone who bought a soda before her that night had done exactly that same thing.
Oh.
Because this place was never again.
Never again.
I
definitely agree that I feel like this episode is about people not respecting no.
Yeah, there is that. I mean, Kelly doesn't. And, everybody tries to tell David to kind of knock it off a little bit, and he doesn't. And Emily certainly doesn't. So, yeah, no, it's Emily has a lot of peer pressure going on everybody in this episode. And then there's just no respecting of other people's wishes,
Yeah.
And that kind of sucks.
But clearly, too, they also want to just put a blank statement. All drugs are bad.
That's really what this episode is about, and it's such a fucking lame stain.
Indeed.
Because it's like,
you learn nothing that way.
No, because and there was a really. Do you watch Abbott Elementary?
Oh yes, I do.
There was a really interesting episode about this exact thing, maybe a month ago.
Smoking?
Yeah, the smoking one, where like all the teachers, like they got recorded talking about the things they do to de-stress.
Yes.
How like the one teacher like drinks a lot of red wine, and like this one does edibles, and this one smokes weed, and this one meditates or whatever. Like everyone has their method, and then the dare people were there giving their drugs are a bad thing, and it was like the whole episode was how hard it is to have a nuanced conversation about drugs because we have to say that all drugs are bad.
And well, and kids, I guess at the developmental stage that they are, and this could be entirely wrong now that I'm about to say it, because I don't know how much we know about child psychology
Hmm.
and how their brains evolve. I know from working with kids that they,
Right.
like me, an adult, like things to be clear cut.
Sure.
It's
Yeah,
harder for them to understand why something is nuanced
that's
because,
true.
they're little ones. It's fine.
Mhm.
So, like,
Yeah.
you know, it, the thing that people don't want to do is put in time. That's all you need. You need time to have these
Mhm.
conversations with kids, but people don't want to take time because, oh, school standards, we have to meet the guidelines, or
Yeah.
these kids, or we have to shut down our school. Like,
Right. Yeah, and what you end up getting is far too broad of a brush
yeah.
painted on this, because like the truth is that caffeine is a drug, and alcohol is a drug, and marijuana is a drug, and LSD is a drug, and crack and heroin and fentanyl, and like these are all drugs. Aspirin. All drugs are not the same thing.
Well,
you know
and plus,
and
you're not even including a conversation about things that you can be addicted to that aren't
right.
drugs, like
That's
sex
yeah.
or
Right.
porn.
Or gambling or what. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Yeah, you're just saying that these are all the same thing and they are equally harmful to you. And that part of it is a really bad message,
Yes.
because all of these things are not equally harmful to you.
No.
Heroin is much worse for you than other things. You know,
Oh, yeah.
there are medicinal reasons to do things like LSD or mushrooms. Like
Hmm.
there's like clinical trials about these things. Like there's reasons to do them and ways to do them that are safer. There's no great way to do heroin that it's not going to be bad. Like it's very bad,
Hmm.
and that is an important thing to teach kids. Like when you're a kid, all of these things are bad for you. They just are. Developmentally, you're not, this can affect your brain chemistry in different ways. It's not good. Stay away from it. It's not a good idea. You should be older. When you're
Hmm.
older, all of these things are not the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's that part of the message that isn't there. And it's the reason why this episode sucks, because
Yeah.
it's like they make a point of calling out lots of different drugs. Like David has all of his hooch that he's just downing, straight downing.
Oh,
Um,
my God.
there's the needle in the ground. There's the people smoking crack. There's the U4EA, which like I don't know why every drug got the real name except for ecstasy. Like
I, I don't either.
it's really weird.
And plus, I
But
think it would be a lot more helpful if they put more street names on there, like,
right, sure.
because
But
this
I
stuff
don't.
will be offered to kids or to anyone, and they'll be like, I have no idea what that is, you know?
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. It's. But
well, and
they.
as I told you, I thought it was a really weird jump shot that they did, jump cut from the needle on the ground to people smoking crack.
Right.
I was just like, wait, what?
Yeah.
'Cause
That's yeah.
if I was watching this as a teenager, I would have thought those were the same drug. I would have thought that
Right.
those two
Sure.
people had just injected and then also were smoking. Like, it was super
Mhm.
confusing.
Right. And it's just meant to lump it all together, because it's bad when you do the drug that Brandon did because you get so horny that your car gets messed up, or it's bad that you do the drug that David did because you end up puking in the corner,
Oof.
or it like every drug you do is bad, and
Yeah.
do none of them. And that being the message, like the loud fucking message in a sweeps week episode of one of the probably the most popular show aimed at kids is shitty. I just don't like it. I don't like, why do that? Why do that story? You
With
know, like,
once again, without proper conversation about it.
yeah, because like if what, like narratively, if what you want to do is break Brandon and Emily up and get Donna and David closer together and give Steve and Andrea some zany sidekick shit to do, there's a different way you can do that that's not telling this story. You can even have them all go to a rave, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and something bad, somebody could get slipped drugs, but the rest of the episode doesn't have to be about that. Like,
Yeah.
other things can happen besides drugs are bad, everybody.
Well, and like Dawson's Creek had an episode like this, but took it to a further level, saying that like, okay, drugs are one thing, but like, don't take shit if you're already on medication, because
Mm,
those two like meshing in your system are not going to
right.
end well.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's like, people don't think about that necessarily because, you know, people aren't necessarily thinking about anything when they're like, I think I'm going to buy something from that man with a 4 on his t-shirt, you
Well, and
know?
again, like they're kids, you know. They're
Mhm.
and some adults do this too. Like we all forget we're gonna die and that we're mortal.
Right.
But kids definitely so. Like they think it's fine. I've
Hmm.
never experienced a hangover. I've never felt like death.
Right. And like, it's not great to go out and do things and then feel shitty the next day. It's a thing that happens. I mean, definitely
Oh
a thing
yeah.
that, you know, that I got into in college and multiple times didn't feel so great the next day after what I consumed and whatever. And that is
Yep.
a normal experience. And it's a thing that should be on shows like this. Um,
Had too many White Castles.
oh, one time, absolutely. Yes, that happened.
Yep.
And I did not feel very good.
Nope.
Yeah, I think I was like 7 years old and I had 5 White Castles, and it did not go well. It did not go well. We were we were at the airport waiting for one of our uncles to come in
No.
on a plane. Maybe Steve. I don't remember. I was really little, and I had like, we had White Castles, and White Castles are fucking good.
Yeah.
And I and they're so small, you don't realize that like there's a limit to how many you can eat without it being a problem.
Yep.
And I puked a lot that night. Uh,
Oh
it
no.
was real bad. It was real bad. And my mom and dad were like, "Well, don't eat 5 White Castles." I mean, I don't really know what to tell you here, other than that was a poor choice.
Right. Yeah, that's all you can do.
Yeah,
That's so
just write
funny.
it out. Yep. So no, I had my White Castle night.
You will
Um,
live to be this stupid again.
yeah, exactly. And like, that's like, those are good stories to tell, but they did that already. You know, they did a regret your choices party story in season 1, and
No,
we're back to it
can't do that
again.
enough. Can't do that enough as a
Apparently.
kid.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not like lessons stick either when you're a kid, so that's fair.
It's true.
Uh, but it just, I don't know. This one just seems real stupid to me, and it's a big deal because of what happens. Um, and as we say, what Emily did was very, very bad. Like, everything Emily did in this episode was very, very bad. And don't do those things. You
And
know,
like, she's not going to face any consequences for it.
right? Yeah. I mean, yeah. There's certainly no parent around. Um,
No.
she did get dumped, so there's that. But um, I don't know. And the other part of it that is so hard to stomach is like Cindy's lecture about how all drugs are bad, and that's where I'm with Brandon, where he's like, "Mom, I think it's okay." like, he's
Yeah.
like, "Mom, you're being a little bit hyperbolic here,"
Yeah.
and it. I'm with him on that reaction. And I'm with Brandon on the scene where he is sitting on the couch and David comes over drunk and like David feels him up and says he's the host who's had the most. There's something about that scene I quite enjoyed.
She likes me.
Donna, she likes
I
me.
really loved, and I missed stuff that was being said the first time that I watched this, but I loved when Brenda and Dylan are talking and Brandon's just standing on the car
Behind
looking at them. Looking at them like when Snoopy's in vulture mode. It's hysterical.
The framing on that shot is so funny.
It's so funny, but to their detriment, because I, like, when I rewatched it, I went, oh, he's saying stuff of value.
Right. Yeah, he's like, that's when he's given Brenda the, he doesn't care right now, Bren. He's so high. He won't even know. He's not in his right mind. And in the background, Brandon is up there like a golden god. And,
yes.
And then is like, guys, don't go away mad. But like right on cue, because you could tell they rehearsed the shit out of this. Like the minute that Dylan and Brenda walk out of frame, Emily stands up so that she is level with Brandon, so she can wave her arms and say, "Just go away."
So
in like
stupid.
The most unnatural of line deliveries I think I've ever seen. It's real weird. Even if she's out of her mind on some sort of drug, it's a weird way to say that.
Yeah, you kind of have to play being on drugs the same way you would play being out of your mind. You have to believe that nothing is wrong.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I'm fine. What are you talking about? I'm perfectly fine.
Right. Yeah, everything's good. We're good. We're fine.
We're good. Snort juice.
Yeah. Why don't you go away?
Yeah.
I am away. You go away. How about that? Didn't think of that, did you, Dylan?
How about them apples?
Suave.
Oh, yeah, you need to explain that to me.
I need to explain Rico Suave to you. So, to me, clearly an ad lib by Luke Perry, because he does it twice in one episode, and I don't think there's any writer who's going to write. He calls David here Rico Suave, and later he calls him Grico Suave.
Good
that is clever. No, what that is it's a song. Rico Suave by I have to look up the guy's name now. But it was like his only hit, and it was part in English, part in Spanish, and it was a huge hit. In 1990, it was a huge hit, and it was by a guy named Gerardo, and he was actually in the movie Can't Buy Me Love.
Oh,
yeah, he's one of the jock guys with the long brown hair, black hair, I guess.
Okay, it's been a minute since I've watched it.
Yeah, but Rico Suave was a pretty big hit song in 1990. So Dylan is making like a 2-year-old reference to a song twice and calling David that. It's a lame stain, is what it is. Using Rico Suave twice like that. See, this is why I don't understand why some of these words didn't catch on. Because I'm feeling real strong about being able to use lame stain in a lot of circumstances.
I mean, what was the one, something and hagged?
Oh.
Bound and hagged?
Let me see.
It was bound and hagged.
Yep, bound and hagged. Yeah.
I mean, I've been bound and hagged for the last 2 weeks, so like that's...
Yeah.
It's fitting.
Yeah. God, I would like to be swinging on the flippity flap more. Like that's just...
Me too!
And do you know how popular wax slacks still are? I mean, people wear old ripped jeans to this very day. See, and we could be saying these things. We could be saying wax slacks, and it never took hold, and it makes me kind of sad.
I'm sad that the 2 times I've been to Seattle, I didn't know the slang. I would have killed.
Right. Yeah, you could have. I mean, people there would have known that you were down with the grunge scene of 1991.
Instead of looking like a puke meister.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, puke meister. We got another meister on our hands in this episode. He's a dork and a puke meister. So I did want to, I mentioned this in text, I did want to talk a little bit about David and Donna's evolving relationship.
Okay, let's do
So
it.
what do you think about their relationship? Because I'm seeing it in a different way this time through than I have before, but I'm interested like how you're seeing the two of them together at this point.
It's weird because they're clearly hanging out, and I
Mm-hmm.
feel like we're not getting to see any of it. We're just getting to see it from
Mm,
like the friends' perspective,
right.
which is disappointing because clearly we're supposed to think of David as a lame stain. And
He's a cobnobbler.
yeah. And I mean also, he's most likely still grieving his friend who died just last
I
week.
mean, literally based on nothing we've seen. Like this.
I'm gonna base his drinking choice off of that.
Maybe you're giving more credit than I am to what happened in this episode with David and his drinking,
Well,
but
sometimes I have to be nice to the
that's
writers.
fine. That's fine.
Um, but yeah, I want more. If because
Hmm.
right now from the outside it doesn't look great. I mean, he was really mean to her last week, and
Yeah,
he's not treating her great this week either. I mean, he's being a dumb kid,
yeah.
so it's not like he's doing anything terribly abusive or anything. And but just like I don't know, I want more for Donna.
Okay, I see that. Here's what I'm seeing this time. I'm seeing an evolution. Like their relationship is changing in front of our eyes,
Mm,
which I think is pretty cool. Like we went from flinging Palm Springs where everybody just thinks he's a total tool, and then the Romeo and Juliet stuff at the beginning in the summer, where like they're interacting with each other, and you're
yeah,
seeing that they're hanging a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit, and she still thinks he's a dork, but she had fun with him. And then the last three episodes, you've really seen them behaving differently towards one another, and it's different each time because it's growing each time.
yeah,
Like Donna is clearly there for him throughout the next 50 years episode, and in ways that no one else tries to be, in ways that
hmm
6 months ago she wouldn't have been for him, but she's there as someone who legitimately cares about him. And
yeah,
this episode, it was never presented as an option that David wouldn't be there. Like
yeah.
he was there, and Kelly is like kind of shitty about it, and Donna is like, get used to it.
Love that.
And it's like, okay, this is a real thing now. Like they may not be like officially official, but they're in some kind of a relationship with one another here. Where like David is in, he's with me, and yeah, he made a mistake. He got drunk, but you don't have to treat him like this. It's not that's not cool. I like being with him. And David going, she likes me. Like Donna
She
likes
likes
me.
me for me.
Yeah, he's not Leonardo.
No,
Or
or
like,
some guy in Fargo.
yeah, I think his name is Steve.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, she likes him for him, and it's very exciting for David. And like, but that wasn't he didn't pick up on that last week when all the Scott stuff was happening. He
yeah, I
wasn't
mean,
thinking Donna
you
likes
couldn't.
me. He was thinking Donna's the last one to check in on me, so she's the one I get to yell at. But also, I think you think he's probably got a little bit of an inkling that he knows he can tee off, and she's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
He can express his emotions and be kind of a jackass because she knows that he's really going through something, and he's not trying to be that way right now. And I still like him. I'm not going anywhere. He feels safe enough to tell her to fuck off. You know,
hmm
which sucks. Like that's shitty, but also like his best friend just bled all over his mom's Persian rug right in front of David, and that dude should be in all kinds of fucked up mourning right now. And
Yeah.
he's mostly just going to this club and drinking too much. But,
Yeah.
but drugs are bad, and don't do any of them ever,
Ever.
ever, ever, ever. Um, Anything else that this episode might really have been about or that we didn't get into? I feel like there might have been something, but I can't remember what it
I
was.
do want to point out there was a moment uh, where it looked like Brenda and Brandon were gonna kiss.
Of course there did.
They were in the bathroom and they had this weird zoom in on them.
Mm.
It had been a slow pan in, and then like right before they cut the scene, they ended up what ended up happening was just her playfully jabbing him and everything, but I kid you not, it looked like they were about to jump into each other's arms. And that may be why Brenda doesn't like Emily.
Right. Yeah, she's getting in the way.
She's getting in the way. She's not getting inappropriate attention from her brother.
Oh, well, give it time, Bren. I'm sure.
Bobby's gone. Like,
yeah. You know, the one thing we didn't talk about that deserves more attention, because it's actually the part of the episode that I love, and it's Steve and Andrea trying to exchange an egg.
yeah, that was funny.
I love the whole thing. I love how bad he is at it. I love that Andrea convinces herself to go out of her shell just a little bit, but still holds up the shield of I'm doing this for journalism. And
yeah, always.
The interaction with the lady who doesn't know why they're trying to exchange an egg is legitimately funny.
On you.
Yeah. It's like, what's wrong with it? But you want another one? Do you have a receipt? Like, the deadpan that lady does that, like, that is an excellent performance, because that is a lady who it's the first time she's had this conversation, but it's not the first time she's had this conversation. Where someone comes in there and is just whacked out of their head, and she just has to fucking deal with it. Yeah. Because it is midnight on a Friday, and she works in a convenience store. And it's just, like, you're not going to have any pleasant interaction.
She's bound and hagged at work.
She really is. Oh, it's terrible. She just has to deal with all these cobnobblers and lame stains. Mm. Oh. So... But I do love Andrea and Steve together being like goofball sidekicks.
I do too.
Yeah, it's real. I don't know how many more times that happens, but it's fun when it does, because they bounce off each other in a real fun way.
They do. I feel like she brings out the best in him. And
he gave her great advice.
Yes.
When he's like, get out of your own way. Like, you're pretty great, quit selling yourself so short. Somebody needs to occasionally grab Andrea by the shoulders and just try to shake that into her a little bit.
Hey, me too.
Right, because, she doesn't believe, and she should, because she's great, and so are you, and it's awesome.
Oh, thanks.
Of course you are. Of course. All right, anything else for this episode, or is it time for Nostalgia Corner?
Oh, it's time for Nostalgia Corner.
All right, what do you got? Bring the stories.
So, if you are not from the Louisville, Sowen area, you won't know what Abbey Road on the River is. Mm-hmm. But
But you can guess it by context clues of what
it's a Beatles festival.
Located, in our not coincidentally, on the river.
Yeah. So the first year they did it, my dad took me, big Beatles fan. And of course I was a burgeoning Beatles fan as well.
Sure.
Is it burgeoning or burgeoning?
Burgeoning.
Thank you.
Yep.
So, we're walking around. It's a teeny tiny area on the waterfront. We've been looking around at booths, listening to some of the local, Beatles bands or Beatle cover bands. And we're sitting down at one point and just listening to them play. And my dad all of a sudden points at something on the ground and goes, "Oh no." And I look and I go, "Oh, Dad, I think that's a pen."
What did he think it was?
We thought it was a syringe.
Oh, Lord. Oh, yeah, that'd be a bummer.
I laughed and now I look back too and I'm like, how did you know what that was? Maybe I had seen Rent at that point. I don't know. Right. Maybe they're just it's weird the things kids somehow learn without seeing.
Yeah, yeah.
But it cracked me up. And like I could tell he was like, oh no. Like he was also like oddly, I don't know, he seemed oddly like not delighted. That's the wrong word. But like
Guess
I
what?
think
12-year-old, we're at the hard drugs party.
I know. I just think he felt like, oh, look, what a cool moment. Like, my daughter and I are at this cool scene, but not doing anything wrong because we're father and daughter. And,
Yep.
but yeah, I just love that. I looked down and went, Dad, that's a pen. You square.
Yeah. Lame stain.
And that's my experience with drugs.
You just said no to that pen.
Right? I yelled at it.
It was a smart move on
Thank
your part,
you.
I think. Yeah. I think my nostalgic corner is sitting on a couch in a party while loud music is playing and there's a flashing light thing happening.
Nice.
Because I'm not full on Brandon Walsh. Like, I'll get up and dance. Dancing is fun. Dancing feels good. But you know, I'm not the one out there David Silvering. Like, I'm not going to put anybody's eye out with my arm flailing about.
Oh, I am.
Well, see, that's where you and I are, Marge, in some ways, you and I are very different people.
I fully gave up hope at meeting dudes at a wedding that I was in because none of them would come out and dance. And I was like, screw this. I'm going out and having a good time.
Yep. And I was much more the sit on the couch like Brandon's doing, watching all of this go on and just being amused by all of it. You know, like just taking it all in and, you know, every now and again having a conversation with whoever comes over. But he looked like he was having a great time on that couch. And
right, he did.
That felt real good to me. Like, I was like, I can identify with that. You know, there are many parties where that was, I found a good spot on a couch and I had my drink or whatever, and I just sat there, and it was like, that's my move. I'm happy on the couch.
That's me at networking events.
Yeah. Probably doesn't work as well in a networking event.
No, it doesn't.
But, you know, if you're at a college party and your whole point is just to sort of be there, then that was my move. That's me on the couch is the place to be.
Nice.
So, so that's my nostalgia corner. Who wins your Steve Sanders Memorial Worst Person of the Episode award?
I think it's obvious. Emily freaking Valentine.
She sucked hard in this episode.
Don't drug people.
Don't drug people. Let me ask you this, because it's a thought that I have that comes up in later episodes, much later episodes. But what's the difference between doing this and using a love potion?
You mean like?
You know, like
you mean that in terms of roofies, or you mean like an actual innocent...
I mean, that's what I mean. See, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Like the whole idea of like love potion number 9. Like, you know, I went to the guy and he gave me, and he mixed it up right there in the sink. It smells like turkey. Like that whole thing. Like the idea of a love potion. It's something that gets used in stories all the time as like it's usually ha, right? Or like a meet cute kind of thing or whatever.
Midsummer Night's Dream.
Right. How is that different than giving someone roofies? How is that different than this? It's kind of not, but they're very different things in a story.
Well, and that's the shame of this too, is that because this shit does happen to guys, like every horrible thing can happen to any type of person.
Right.
But because of stupid gender stereotypes and roles, we want to make certain genders feel bad for those things happening to them. So, like, while I don't like that Brandon probably wants to protect Emily, he's probably also trying to protect his dignity as a man, quote unquote, from admitting that, like, I got roofied by someone, basically.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I mean,
does he... Go ahead.
I'm with you. No, I'm with you.
Just that both of... either one, you're denying someone what they told you. You're ignoring what they
Right.
said. You're
Yeah.
taking their boundaries into your own hands and saying, "No, these are mine."
Yeah, exactly. No, what you really wanted was this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a weird storytelling thing for me that like if you start looking at stories where someone used a love potion as stories where Emily drugged Brandon, they just take on a whole different, and there's really no difference, you know. But
And like
if someone's like, "Oh, it's a love potion," you're like, "Hot dog, love potions," you know.
she
I don't know.
uses the argument kind of like basically like no meaning yes when by asking him, "Well, what would it take for you to do this?" And he,
Right.
very jokingly says, "It would take a poltergeist slipping it under my tongue." It's like that doesn't mean you should do it. And also like just take people at their direct answer. Don't make us have
Yeah.
to pussyfoot around what we're telling you to make you feel better.
Yeah. And I mean, he says very clearly, "No, I don't. I've told you. I don't want to do this. Remember when I told you that I don't want to do this? But earlier I said I don't want to do this and here's why." Like you couldn't be more clear about it.
They didn't cover
And
getting drugged in Dare.
really?
I don't remember them covering, like, okay, well, if someone slips you something, here's what you do.
Right.
They
Yeah.
told us that no would be enough. They told us that no would be enough.
It was not. Not for
No, it
Brandon.
wasn't.
Multiple no's were not enough to keep the euphoria out of Brandon's system. All right. So we made it, I think, to the end of Euphoria.
Yeah, what a ride.
I know. I told you that we're into some episodes right now.
I'm loving it.
There's shit that happens and it's not boring. And we're just past the halfway point of season 2.
Woo!
Yep, which is crazy because like we're in November still. Like we're not even in 1992 yet. But it is a long season, a 28 episode season. So
Wow.
join us next week, Cheesemeisters, for season 2, episode 16, My Desperate Valentine. And be paying attention to the socials because I don't think we've decided 100% yet what we're doing for this week's Peach Pod After Dark. We've got a couple of ideas, so we'll put it out there and you'll know what it is before it drops on Friday. So until then, Cheesemeisters,
Rock on!
bye.